Hi guys, welcome back to another video of What If Lori Survived in The Walking Dead. So let's get into it. We start off by seeing Glenn, which in the last episode I said he's dead, but Maggie thinks he's dead because I forgot to mention in episode 14 that Glenn was taken by Negan because he saw that, because what he eventually would look at Glenn and he'd take him because he knows that Maggie's baby is Glenn, so he'd take Glenn because he looked the second most because he looked pretty innocent and he looked like people like him a lot, so he'd take him too. So Glenn's with Daryl, Merle, Spencer, and Rosita. Well, Merle not really, but eventually the Saviors will find him because now he killed the governor and ran off. So basically, those are going to be the prisoners, and eventually some of the saviors, like Alden, the guy you see on the screen, because I had his image on for a while, would find Merle, and they'd kind of take him to the sanctuary, and they'd put him in, the same, they wouldn't, keep him in the same type of area, because they'd eventually know how to make up a plan, and when they do, they'll escape, and that's not going to turn out so great for the Saviors, and they don't want to be just chasing after them. And we'd see Daryl, who's just in his cell for now, and he'd hear a couple noises at his door, and a Savior called Alden would open the door, and he tells Daryl to get out of here, and he gives him the keys to his friends' doors so he can get them too and they can all get out. And Daryl gets Merle, Rosita, Spencer, Glenn, Maggie, everybody there, and he gets them, and when they escape, they'd actually go to the hilltop because they just go to the hilltop because it's more secure, and I don't think Saviors usually even came there. It was just one episode where they came, I think, and that was with Simon. He talked with Gregory and just left. So, yeah, that's the safest place to go because they don't even go there much because, 3 communities, it's a lot. Plus, Simon deals with 2 of them, Alexandria and Hilltop, so that's why the group would go to the Hilltop. And we see Morgan, who's just sitting down, and then, he's just in Alexandria, and he's sitting down thinking about how he shot the governor, but he didn't take the kill, obviously. It was Merle, so he feels like he should have taken the blame, but then we see Ben, who comes up crying, and he's all sad about Alan's death because that was his dad and all, and Morgan tells him to grow up because he's lost his son, his wife, and everything he's had. And this encourages Ben a bit. And Ben and Morgan would share about their losses and stuff, but then Joe comes up and he'd tell him to shut up and go get to work and find us supplies to give to the Saviors and something we could put in our mouth to eat, because they're just sitting around like idiots being some fools who really can't do any work except just sitting around being useless. And he'd say that Alan's death didn't matter. They just gotta move on, and he'd call them useless, and he'd tell them to get to work. And then Morgan stands up, and he'd tell him, "Don't you remember how we found you? You attacked us, and we killed most of your men, and we captured you. And you're just lucky that we kept you alive because we are good people and we didn't want to save you, but that humanity in us did. But I didn't want to, so you better keep your mouth shut or I will shut it for you." Joe would tell Morgan to be quiet and keep his mouth shut too because he can't order him around at all, and Joe would pull out his gun and ask Morgan if he's gonna follow what Joe just said, or is he gonna be a stupid idiot. And Gabriel would come and he'd get between them and he'd tell them to stop arguing because they need to stick together on this. And Lori would come too and she'd back Gabriel up, and then she'd push Joe and take his gun away from him. Then she'd take him to like the area where he can't really hurt anyone. She'd just lock him in a house for a day probably so he could learn his lesson, because Lori, she's starting to become more of a leader in Alexandria now, because Reg isn't gonna step up to be leader, and neither is Aiden or Spencer, so it's just Rick and Lori and Daryl and Carl, I guess, who are leaders. But Daryl you can't really say for now because he's in Hilltop, but overall it's pretty good for them. And we see Jesus, who's going to Alexandria to tell Rick about something, and he's looking all around for him when eventually he'd find him. And Jesus would tell Rick that the ones that Negan took from the lineup, and when they captured Maggie, Spencer, and Rosita, they are at the Hilltop because they escaped, and now they're planning to fight off the Saviors now. And Jesus says the Hilltop is gonna fight back too now, and the Kingdom says they will as well. So he's here to ask Rick if he's gonna get Alexandria in the fight. And Rick says they should fight back, considering they killed Alan and Abraham and a couple others, like Deanna and some others. And Rick gathers up his people, and the people showing up to the meeting will be Glenn, Daryl, Merle, Aaron, Tyrese, Eric, Herschel, Rick, Gartulio, Eastman, Jesus, Carol, Maggie, Dwight, Spencer, Axel, and Oscar. Those are the people that'll be showing up for the meeting to make up a plan to take down the Saviors. And a couple others like Ezekiel and Richard and like Jerry, because like they're from the Kingdom, and obviously Lori, because she's one of the leaders now. But anyways, Negan and his men start banging on the doors of Hilltop to check if Daryl, Merle, and the others are here because they escaped. And Cal is forced to open the doors of the Hilltop. And Dr. Carson sees this, and he quickly starts running towards the house in, like, Hilltop, I think. And when he gets inside, he tells the group about Negan and the people being here, and Simon would come in, and he'd ask, what the hell's going on here? But he'd quickly get slide tackled by Jesus. Anyways, after that, Jesus would aim his gun on Simon, and Ezekiel's pet tiger Shiva goes outside, and she looks at all of them, and I do not know if Shiva is a woman or a man, I just don't know. Negan would look at Shiva and start running, but Jared, he isn't scared that much, but he is pretty scared. But he'd try fight back, but he gets ripped apart by Shiva, and Jared gets brutally eaten, and Jared dies. And we'd see a fight between Maggie and Tara, who were both pretty skilled, but mainly Maggie would come on top, and she has Tara hostage, and she would aim her gun at Tara, but she wouldn't shoot because she needs her alive, Rick said, and it's because of the whole Carl thing, because he's just been I guess, annoying him. And Justin, Arat, Laura, and David, and also Gavin and Simon and would all give up, and Negan would laugh, and he'd see all of his people just giving up, and he'd call them pathetic. But then he would eventually just give up too. But Negan gets shot in the stomach, and it's Rick who shot him, but Rick would save him, because it's just like the entire like thing of like what happened with like, you know, at the All Out War. So yeah, but that will be it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed, and bye-bye.